In Daniel chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar set out a decree for all the people in Babylon that anytime musical instruments were played, they would have to bow down and worship a golden statue of himself. But whenever the musical instruments played, these three boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, decided not to bow down and not to worship, to stand up for their faith. And picking up on that, King Nebuchadnezzar got mad at them, and so he sent a herald to go and take them to him so that he could talk to them and ask them why they didn't bow down. And in verse 17, we see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, "If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." This is so good because it talks about the boldness that we need to be living with in our day-to-day lives. It talks about how we need to be standing up for our faith in the middle of trials, in the middle of backlash, in the middle of people getting mad at us in difficult situations. But one thing that we have to remember, and something that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego do perfectly here, is continuing to respect and accept others but not approve of what they're doing. You see they say your majesty multiple times throughout that verse to show that we respect you, we respect the authority that you have, and we're not going to compromise on our faith for something that you told us to do. We're not going to put the authority that you have over the authority that God has, and what you say for what God says is good. So that's good.
Yeah, and then because of what they did, because of their disobedience to the king, but obedience to God, they were thrown to the furnace. And when they're thrown, sorry, I just sneezed like 6 times. When they were thrown to the furnace, there was a fourth man in the fire, and that was Jesus. And he was with them because they were being obedient to him and loving him instead of loving the world and loving idols and things like that. And so after they came out of the fire, they were completely unsinged, unburned, nothing. They were completely fine. They didn't even smell like smoke. And they came out, and Nebuchadnezzar says this. In verse 28, it says, "Then Nebuchadnezzar said, 'Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him.'" And so the risk was for the three kids that they were going to be disobedient to the world and obedient to God. And the risk was that they were going to die. They were going to be burned in the furnace. But the reward was that Nebuchadnezzar would be saved, and many others would realize that God is all-powerful and deserves worship, and he is good. And so the risk was way overshadowed by the reward of at least one person getting into heaven because of their faith in Jesus. And so I think we have to realize in where we are at this time in history is that, like, there's a big risk but a humongous reward that's completely worth it in the hindsight of things. And so I think we need to see it that way for sure.
Yeah.